everyone, and welcome back to 101 Great Goals for our first Euro 2020 talking points, where we talk through the biggest talking points of Euro 2020. And it's been a very mixed opening few days of the tournament, some brilliant football and also some sad news as well. I'm joined by Ben Kelly from Red Men TV, who is a massive England fan. So, Ben, thank you for joining us. Any of Ben's links are in the description. And I will say, they've just done a documentary on Jordan Henderson's 10 years at the club, and it is fantastic. Ben, just before we continue, that documentary that we did, 20 seconds, just describe it and how good it is.
We've got loads of people involved for it. You can go and watch the first episode for free now, but we've got Gareth Southgate, we've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, Jurgen Klopp, Steven Gerrard, Jamie Carragher. The list just goes on. It's insane. The first episode kind of looks at his youth career, and he goes all on loan to Coventry, and then how he moves to Liverpool. And then the episode coming out this week is all about his relationship with Brendan Rodgers and how that develops, and then eventually Jurgen Klopp coming in. And then episode 3 is going to be all about the glory days and winning the European Cup and Premier Leagues and all of that. So it's really nice to spread out, but there's so many big people, big names in it. So yeah, go over to the website and have a little look.
And what I will say is, even if you're not a Liverpool fan, it's just a fantastic watching. Do you know what? Jordan Henderson is just such a fantastic character as well. So all the links will be in the description. So let's start then, Ben. Obviously, really sad and terrible news a few days ago, obviously, when Denmark were playing Finland. Just before half-time, Christian Eriksen collapsed on the pitch and he had a cardiac arrest. Now, he was resuscitated on the pitch, and thankfully, and this is from everyone within the footballing world who prayed for him, it's just so thankful that it looks like he's going to be okay. But it was probably one of the most gut-wrenching scenes I've ever seen in a football game. My heart was in my mouth, and it really was one of those moments where it was, you contemplate your own life and you think it could happen to anyone. A fit 29-year-old footballer has had a heart attack on the pitch. And do you know what? As well as that, it promoted the good from within football. The way that the whole of the Denmark team rallied around him and formed a shield while they had to watch probably one of their closest friends be resuscitated on the pitch, and just how strong everyone was, from the captain to Kasper Schmeichel, and just how it brought the whole footballing world as well. Ben, watching that game, thank God he's okay. Like I say, that it was absolutely gut-wrenching to see, wasn't it?
Yeah, I must admit, I feel almost fortunate now. I wasn't watching the game. I didn't see it happen. Obviously, it was one of those games across the weekend that I saw as a little bit less, obviously, interesting on paper. So I'd watched the Wales game in the afternoon, and I wanted to watch the Belgium game. So I went out on a bike ride for that game, and I thought, oh well, I'll go out. I'll have a little bit of it. I've been working in the day as well. I thought I'll go out and get a bit of fresh air, and I'll come back and I'll get myself ready for Belgium. And I went out probably after about 15 minutes gone in that one. And I came back, and obviously it was some kind of other show that was on, and I was a bit confused, and my mum had explained to me what had gone on, and just my overriding feelings were, well, yeah, okay, thank God he was all right, but B, thank God that I didn't have to sit through that, because I just know that would have been really horrendous and difficult to sit through. And later on, I'd obviously been catching up on some groups, some messages and group chats and stuff, and my friends who had watched it, and I felt like a responsibility. I was like, are you guys okay? Because that would have been so difficult to watch and sit through. Obviously, it was broken pretty quickly, wasn't it, that he'd been awake at the side of the pitch and stuff. So, pretty much straight away that there was some good news. But yeah, fair play to the Denmark players who obviously did their part. I think Kasper Schmeichel is an absolute inspiration. I think he's absolutely brilliant. He is almost he's like the true definition of a leader. The way that he was one of the first ones over, but also obviously with the incident with the Leicester owner a few years back, I know he was very heavily involved in trying to make that situation, do anything that he can to improve those situations. So he's brilliant. And yeah, overall, I think obviously the main thing to take away from all this is that Christian Eriksen's okay, because he's a fantastic player. I've enjoyed watching him at Tottenham for many years, and I think it's touch and go at the moment whether he'll ever play again. I hope that he can. But yeah, it's such a shame to see such a talent have to suffer like that.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I think what you take from that is when you say that you were asking your friends if they're okay, it was a very extremely traumatic thing to watch, and it was horrible. But like I said, the main thing to take away from it is that Christian Eriksen is okay and he can go back to his family and his children, and that's the main thing for everyone in life. So we just want to wish Christian all the best, and just thank God that he's okay. And it was more everyone came together from within football, and just before we move on from it, just feel like the fact that UEFA gave them a bit of a premonition to play the game either the same day or 12 o'clock the next day. I don't know. It just felt a bit of a lack of empathy for me. But I don't know what you think about it. I know it's extremely hard to comment on, considering we don't know the ins and outs of what actually happened. But when the Denmark coach is coming out and saying that we were given a choice to play the same day or the day after, doesn't football scheduling go out the window with incidents like this?
It should do, yeah. And I think that the only way it would, I will be blunt with it. I think the only way it would have really gone out the window for UEFA is if he died. You know what I mean? Like I think it takes something that extreme to make UEFA properly consider these things, which is balmy. But like the just the level of greed that, well, look, we've discussed this from UEFA. Like UEFA came out and were very much advocates against the Super League, and they came out and pretended to be the good guys and all of that, and are not interested in the fans, not interested really about the welfare of the players. I feel like that's been quite a hot topic over this last season because of the scheduling and stuff. But they've got to be looking at it as they were never going to cancel a tournament or do anything as drastic as that. So what are they going to do? They've got a tournament to play. Denmark and Finland have both got to play again before the end of the week. So they've got to get the game in somewhere. And to be fair, they gave them the option, and the Denmark players wanted to play the game. So that's the decision that they've taken. So fair play to them. Obviously, I think they were much better. They were the much better team before the incident. And the second half, they struggled a bit, and obviously they went on to lose the game. So it's not particularly a great ending to the way that night's gone for them. It would have been, a really difficult evening, I imagine. But hopefully that they can find, now that they know that Christian's definitely going to be okay, they can find a little bit of inspiration and take it into the next two games.
Yeah, I don't know how they did it. I really don't know how they did it. I don't think I would have been able to do it. So, again, it's just a massive fair play to both them and Finland. I mean, Finland got the first win in an international tournament. It should have been such a momentous occasion for them. But yeah, like I say before, we just all hope that Christian Eriksen is okay. Yesterday, then, Ben, moving on, England opening up with a win against Croatia. First of all, when the team sheet gets released, and we've got two left backs in very good form. They're not playing. Kieran Trippier is playing left back. Jadon Sancho's not even in the squad. And we're playing a double pivot of Declan Rice and Calvin Phillips. So before we move on to the game, what was your thoughts?
The double pivot thing, I wasn't too fussed about, because I didn't expect Jordan Henderson to be fit enough to start. So I kind of expected Calvin Phillips to be playing. Well, obviously, I thought it was going to be more of a 4-3-3. I was interested because then I thought, well, maybe Phillips is in the team to basically sit on Modric, because he can do that role for Leeds. And maybe he's just going to give him as little time and the ball as possible and all of that. But actually, it turned out to be the opposite. He seemed to get more freedom and be allowed to do a lot more things creatively than maybe he wouldn't be normally allowed to do at Leeds, which I found really interesting. Regarding why Jadon Sancho isn't in the squad, I don't understand, because for me, he was, he's such a dangerous player. And, I think if we were in a situation where we needed a goal in that game, obviously you'd have Jack Grealish as well, which was another one. I'd have started Jack Grealish yesterday. I think a lot of people would. But obviously the way the game transpired, England didn't need a goal and they were very comfortable, and I thought they played very well. Defensively, they look quite solid. I was a little bit worried about Tyrone Mings and John Stones at the back, and there'll be tougher tests to come for them. But they were overall very solid, and I think that in the end, not needing another goal actually played into England's hands, because they've not used Jack Grealish for any minutes. They've got two fresh left backs who are both in European finals in recent memory, and obviously, another win now probably takes us through. So I think overall, Gareth probably got it right.
Yeah, and I never thought we'd be saying this when, like you say, when we did see the team. I thought Tyrone Mings played very, very well. and I didn't want Tyrone Mings to play, but I thought he was very, very good. Mason Mount and Phil Foden just do what Mason Mount and Phil Foden do. They were very calm and collected, and they had pretty decent games. But Calvin Phillips was so good. And do you know what? As a Man City fan, I probably didn't want Raheem Sterling to play, but again, he had quite a good game. But Phillips he was electric, wasn't he? It was like he was born to play in that game. And I did not expect to see that from his game because it's not something we see from him at Leeds. So has he given Southgate something to think about if Jordan Henderson does come back? Because I know you're obviously a massive advocate for Henderson, but with a performance like that against Croatia, who I know you say there's tougher tests to come, but they're a very good side.
Yeah, I think the difference with Jordan Henderson. Jordan Henderson is England's most experienced big game player. He's playing back-to-back Champions League finals. He's played in massive games in the league. He's played in the World Cup semi-final for England. He's played in massive derbies. He's played up in Sunderland. He's played in Liverpool Man United games, Liverpool Everton games. He's played everywhere. So Jordan Henderson, as we get to the latter stage of this tournament, if England gets to the latter stage of this tournament, that's where Jordan Henderson becomes very valuable, because him on the pitch then, I think, even with the performances that Calvin Phillips is putting in, I think Jordan Henderson gives you more in another sense. But right now, these next two games, Scotland and the Czech Republic, I would back England to win at least one of them, if not both. Jordan Henderson not fully fit, you're in a good opportunity to get Henderson fit if Phillips is playing this well and he's playing the way, with the style that he is. So for me, I think Gareth Southgate's got a nice problem, because he knows now that he's got two good. I thought Declan Rice wasn't great yesterday, but it kind of went under the wayside because of how well Phillips played. But if he does want to take this 4-2-3-1 going forward, throughout the rest of the group games, then there's no reason why any of them should be being rotated at the moment. I think particularly if Jordan Henderson isn't fully match fit, I'd certainly be giving Jordan Henderson some minutes in the last two games. But going forward right now, Calvin Phillips, you've got to say he's one of the first names on the team sheet.
And finally, I know it's so easy, and probably people will be watching this from a different background, maybe saying it's just typical English, but is it coming home? I mean, we played well yesterday, and it's so hard to just say it's not coming home or it is coming home. But has that given you a bit more belief in what England can actually achieve?
I think England are capable of going quite far in this tournament. The problem that England have got is that Group F. When they win the group, if they win the group, they've got to play one of France, Portugal, or Germany, unless Hungary are absolute miracle workers.
I was going to say, don't leave Hungary out, please.
I know. But I'd expect France to win that group. I mean, it's France versus Germany tomorrow night, so we're going to get our first taste of what France are like, but we know how much class that they've got in the squad, and Portugal are the same. I never thought I'd be sat here saying that it would be ideal to play Germany, but probably out of those three teams, the Germans are the ones that you'd probably pick. And I'd probably fancy England to beat Germany as well, based on just the defensive stability that we saw yesterday and the attacking options that we've got. I thought Mason Mount was excellent yesterday. Calvin Phillips rightly got all the plaudits, but I thought Mason Mount really picked up the ball. I thought he continued his form. And the amount of confidence that winning a European Cup must give you to be able to just take that international tournament, that's not a problem for England at all. But in terms of England's progression in the tournament, if they can get past the round of 16, they do have a chance of going all the way.
Right. So Ben, just before we move on, then I just wanted to ask you, Phil Foden's hairstyle, yay or nay? Yay or nay?
Yay! I didn't think I'd be yay, but yay indeed. I don't buy though. I saw him saying that he didn't realise that it was a reference to Gascoigne. I don't buy that at all. There's absolutely no way that he did not realise that was a Paul Gascoigne hair, and he's just randomly gone into the barbers and gone, "Oh, I'll have this," just on a whim. There's just no way that he's done that.
That is like saying, isn't it? That is like saying getting the R9 haircut. Oh, did R9 get this? I didn't realise.
Yeah. But Phil Foden again, another one yesterday. I mean, he hits the post early on, doesn't he? And it's like if that just goes in, I find myself like wanting him to play. I really like Phil Foden. I really like Mason Mount. These young English players that we've got coming through, I really want them to do well. And I think in the end, Foden, and it's acceptable because he's only a young player and he hasn't got that much experience at international level. But he kind of fizzled out in the end, and the game kind of passed him by a little bit. But it could have been a very different story if that early effort had gone in.
So, if England, how far do England have to go in the tournament, and how well does Phil Foden have to play for you to dye your hair like that?
Jesus, I'm not saying that on the internet. Blinking heck. I'm
nearly got him.
Yeah, sorry. Unfortunately, I thought you were going down a different route there. I thought you were going to ask me like, what does it have to be considered to? How far do we have to go for it to be considered a success? But no, just what about you? Come on, you're the Man City fan. You've already got the cuts. You've already got the length. You can do the dye. Surely,
I mean,
if we win,
you
come on.
Just have to have hair to do that. But if we were to
win it,
if we were to win the tournament and Phil Foden was to score the winning goal,
okay,
then yeah,
all right,
yeah.
Can you just say that properly? Just say all that again so that we've got it recorded.
It's not making it in the video, mate. Right. So moving on then. So Italy opening game of the tournament, and they were fantastic, weren't they, against Turkey? It was just nice to see the Italians doing well. And just before we get into the performance and also the favourites for the tournament, because I think Italy really announced themselves onto that stage. How cool is Roberto Mancini? How cool is he?
Yeah, Puma have played, or whoever does it, they played a blinder with them jackets, haven't they? They're well smart. And then he took it off because obviously it was hot, and everybody was like, oh. But no, yeah, he is cool, and he's a good manager. Obviously, he's been all over the place now, and he's won everywhere that he's been. But probably most importantly for Italy, he's got them playing some really good football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And to stay in that shape at 56 years of age, when I look like this at 23, Mancini, fair play to you, mate. Fair play to you. Yeah, Italy 3-0 winners against Turkey, and maybe weren't mentioned in terms of the tournament favourites going into the Euros. Maybe not as high as the likes of France, Portugal, England, and teams like that. But what did you make of Italy's performance? Because Turkey were actually seen as dark horses, and they were just non-existent in that game. I thought Italy managed it very, very well.
Yeah, Turkey. Yeah, they just didn't catch my eye at all. And obviously, going into the tournament, there was a lot of noise about they had quite a young squad, and obviously there was quite a few players in there with Premier League experience and stuff like that. So there were people quite looking forward to seeing them play. I'm interested to watch Turkey against Wales because we watched Wales Saturday afternoon, and they were pretty much just about what I expected. Switzerland are a good side, and I think for them to get a draw against somebody like Switzerland, that was probably a respectable result. But when they come up against Turkey, a team like Turkey, for me, if they are what they are, they should be better than Wales, if you ask me. So they should be able to beat them. But if Wales go and beat Turkey, then I think that's it. And I think pretty much for both of them, whoever wins that game is probably going to go through. Because, obviously for Turkey, they lost the first game. But that is such a big game because Wales then have to go and play Italy. And I don't fancy them getting anything out of that. So they've got to beat Turkey. Both sides have to win. So that's going to be a really interesting game. But yeah, I think a better barometer for Turkey will be when they come up against Wales and obviously Switzerland after that, because I think that those two sides are probably more. Italy, I think we've underestimated them slightly. Italy are probably in that group with England, the Netherlands, just probably that category just below the favourites, I'd say, because I think you've got your France, Portugal, and your Belgium, and then you've got like England, you've got Netherlands, I think Italy belong in that group. I think you've got who else is in there that you've got that I'm trying to think of off the top of my head, but I can't quite think of. You've got who else have we got to play? Spain are probably in our group as well, as in that little category of they're probably not the top favourites, but they can always cause some damage.
I probably would have said Croatia a little bit in that category as well, to be fair to them, even though we beat them yesterday.
Yeah, good shout. Obviously World Cup finalists and all that. So yeah, I think Turkey will get out of the group. But I think that I don't think they're going to be causing any real issues this time around.
So we've seen some of the big teams now. Obviously, we've got Group F still to come and Spain to play as well. Netherlands with a 3-2 win. What a game that was, by the way. Is there anyone else who's catching your eye that you think could challenge France? I mean, you mentioned Belgium. Belgium were sensational, weren't they, against Russia? Or was it more Russia weren't that great? It's probably a mixture of the two, but Belgium played some really good stuff. Lukaku's on form, and when they get De Bruyne back into that squad as well, it's probably going to be a team to be reckoned with. So, is there any other teams that you're thinking could actually challenge France from what you've seen so far?
No, I mean, I think when Portugal play France, because they are going to play in the group, that's going to be fascinating. Because it's, Portugal at the moment, they've got stars everywhere you look. But England have had that before. Belgium, I get sucked in by Belgium every time, thinking, oh, look at all those players, and then they never quite hit the heights that we think they're going to. But it's a question of whether that Ronaldo factor for Portugal is gonna really take them up a notch compared with what we've seen of the Belgians in the past or whatever. So for me, it's probably Portugal. I know that isn't particularly original insight, but that's you can't argue with the squad that they've got on paper. Belgium are interesting. Romelu Lukaku, he is brilliant. He is fantastic. How Man United had him in their squad for all that time and couldn't get the best out of him is absolutely criminal. Because he goes away. He's so strong. He's just so intelligent with his runs and things. You know what I mean? And obviously he's got a really good finish on him as well. So yeah, he's brilliant. And I think, if Belgium can get De Bruyne back in the team and get him into a position where he's nice and fluid again and back into form, this is the thing. I was having a discussion with my dad yesterday, and just to take it back to England slightly, we were talking about Raheem Sterling, and obviously this is before he scored, but I was saying to my dad at half time, Raheem Sterling's really, really good until he has to make the final decision. And he has to decide whether or not he's shooting or he's playing a pass or he's whatever he's doing. And that's what separates the good players and international level players from the real world class level players. Mm-hmm. And that's what Kevin De Bruyne has. So when you put Kevin De Bruyne into that Belgium side, back into that Belgium side, and you've got a player who 8-9 times out of 10 is making the correct decision with the final ball, or he's deciding to shoot correctly and all of that, and he's got the ability to do it as well, that is what takes those teams up a level. And that's why Belgium, if they've got an informed and fit Kevin De Bruyne in their side, that is for me why they could be the ones that challenge France.
I think, like you say, when Kevin De Bruyne comes back as well, if you've always got a punter's chance if you've got Lukaku and De Bruyne linking up, because they're two very world class players, and it's hard to navigate against teams like that. And if Hazard hits some form as well, which we didn't really see against Russia, he just seems a bit lost at the moment. But if he was to find form, like you say, Belgium could be serious contenders. And one thing I just want to point on just before we end is that Lukaku, just before the game, gets booed for taking a knee. And then scores 2 goals, silences the doubters. And we heard boos again before England played, and they took the knee as well. Even after the FA have come out and said they are only doing this as a stand against racism. It's not a political movement. We're just saying racism, and just racism's bad, and so is hate. But people boo it. But incredible mentality by these players.
Yeah, I think to be fair, yesterday I didn't think it was as bad. I know there were still some boos, but I didn't think it was as bad. I think people, I don't know, they just got to be in the bonnet, haven't they? I think people overthink the knee a little bit. I think, as I say, it's not meant to be a political gesture or anything like that. All it is white players in squads and white fans showing support for their black teammates and their black players that they love. All those people who booed the knee yesterday will have celebrated when Raheem Sterling scored. You know what I mean? Like that, and that's what doesn't make sense to me. How can you stand there and support England and celebrate Raheem Sterling? A man born in Jamaica, by the way. You know what I mean? Like he's not born here. But how can you stand there and be accepting of England when they're playing well and when these players are scoring? But at the beginning, when they need you to stand with them, you refuse to do that. It baffles me, and it's not a problem. I think after what the FA put out on Saturday or Friday, after that statement that they put out on their socials, booing the knee is just an explicitly racist act. There's no other excuse for it, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, 100%. I think they've taken the conversation away from it now, haven't they? I think they've taken the narrative of, it's a political movement. They've said it's not political. If you still choose to boo, you're just outing yourself as like Ben said, a racist. And that's where we are. And the people that think it's acceptable to boo it, even after it's been explained, I just don't understand it at all. But I'm glad we highlighted that. So that is where we're going to end on talking points. Like I say, we're going to have a few more of these shows throughout the Euros, and we've got some fantastic content here on 101. We've got interviews with former players. We've got Alison Bender at the stadiums for every game, and she's also doing a 5 a day over on our socials as well. So fantastic content as well over on the TikTok where I am. But all those links will be in the description. Like I say, Henderson documentary and Redmen and Ben will be in the description as well. So go and check them out. Thank you all for watching. Thank you to Ben for coming on, and we'll see you next time.